Hey there, ready to unlock some serious brain power. Today we're diving into Robert Collier's The Secret of the Ages. He claimed to have cracked the code on achieving your wildest dreams, all by understanding and harnessing the power of your own mind. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm running on fumes, mentally speaking. So the idea that we might have this untapped potential just sitting there waiting to be unleashed, that's pretty exciting and a little intimidating, to be honest.
I get that. What's interesting is that Collier doesn't frame this as some mystical, out-there concept. He connects it to scientific discoveries of his time, suggesting they all hint at this incredible power within us. It's like all these advancements were pointing towards the human mind all along.
He even goes as far as to say understanding this power, this life principle, is the world's greatest discovery. Not ancient tombs, not scientific breakthroughs, but the power within our own minds. That's a bold statement.
He doesn't stop there. Remember Professor William James, the father of American psychology? Well, he claimed we only use about 10% of our mental capacity. Collier takes this idea and paints a vivid picture of us wasting this incredible resource, like we're burning forests for fuel when we could be harnessing solar energy.
Okay, that analogy's a bit intense, but I get the point. So if we're walking around with 90% of our brain power on standby, how do we tap into it?
That's where Collier's model of the mind comes in. He breaks it down into three parts: the conscious, the subconscious, and the universal mind. Think of the conscious mind as the CEO making decisions and directing our actions.
Right, the part we use to navigate everyday life. But then there's the subconscious, which always feels a bit mysterious. What exactly is going on in there?
Well, Collier describes the subconscious as this incredible powerhouse operating behind the scenes. It's constantly working, regulating our bodily functions, processing information, and even carrying out instructions we give it whether we're aware of them or not.
So even when we're sleeping or not actively thinking about something, the subconscious is still chugging along, doing its thing.
Exactly. And it's incredibly powerful. Think of Blind Tom, the musical prodigy, who could perfectly reproduce any piece of music after hearing it only once. Collier suggests this wasn't some supernatural ability, but rather a demonstration of the untapped potential within the subconscious mind.
Wow, that's remarkable. He also talks about lightning calculators, those people who can solve complex equations in their heads effortlessly. Are you telling me we all might have that ability lying dormant within us?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? Collier draws on Dr. Hudson's work, who documented cases of people with incredible mental abilities. Photographic memories, fluency in multiple languages, feats of strength and endurance, all attributed to the subconscious.
But here's the thing Collier emphasizes, that the subconscious is highly suggestible. It doesn't discriminate between positive and negative thoughts. Whatever we feed it, it takes as truth and works to manifest it in our lives. It's kind of like how social media algorithms can shape our perceptions without us even realizing it.
That's a great analogy. And it raises an important question. What are we feeding our subconscious minds? Collier argues that many of our struggles stem from negative suggestions we've internalized. Think about the placebo effect. People experience real physical changes based solely on their belief in a treatment. Or how news reports can trigger anxiety about events that are statistically unlikely to affect us directly.
So how do we make sure we're feeding our subconscious the right stuff? That's where this universal mind comes into play, right? This third piece of Collier's model. What exactly is that?
The universal mind, as Collier describes it, is an infinite source of knowledge and power and intelligence that permeates everything. Think of it like the internet, but instead of information, it's pure potential waiting to be accessed and used.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. So it's not like we're isolated individuals with limited resources. We're all connected to this vast network of potential.
Precisely. And Collier believes understanding this connection is the key to unlocking our full potential. He even uses a biblical quote, "With all thy getting, get understanding." It's not about asking for favors or special treatment. It's about aligning ourselves with this universal intelligence and allowing its power to flow through us.
That's starting to make sense. So how does prayer fit into all of this? Is it about asking this universal mind for things?
That's where it gets interesting. Collier redefines prayer not as begging a higher power for things, but as aligning ourselves with this universal intelligence. By clarifying our desires, visualizing them, and holding them in our minds with unwavering faith, we tap into the creative power of the universe.
So it's not about sitting back and hoping for the best. It's about actively shaping our reality through our thoughts and beliefs. But how much power do our thoughts really have?
Collier believes our thoughts are creative energy, and through the connection with the universal mind, they can literally shape our lives for better or for worse. He compares thought forces to electricity. Just as electricity can fuse stone and iron, our thoughts charged with belief and focused intention can reshape our circumstances.
Okay, that's a pretty powerful image, but isn't that a bit like wishful thinking? Just believing something doesn't make it true, does it?
Collier addresses this with an intriguing analogy. He talks about the philosopher's charm, where focusing on a single negative word throughout a task prevents success. The idea is that by dwelling on the negative, we're blocking the flow of positive energy and creating obstacles.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We focus on the negative, and that's exactly what we get.
Exactly. Collier argues that fear and worry are essentially self-fulfilling prophecies. By focusing on what we lack or what we fear, we attract those things into our lives. He urges us to shift our focus to abundance, visualize success, and cultivate unwavering belief in our ability to achieve our goals.
So how do we actually put this into practice? Is there a formula for harnessing this mental power?
Collier outlines a simple three-step process. First, realize you have the power. It sounds basic, but it's about recognizing that incredible potential within yourself.
Right, acknowledging that 90% of untapped brain power we were talking about earlier. What's the second step?
Know what you want. And Collier emphasizes clarity and focus here. It's not about having a vague wish list, but identifying that one burning desire, that one goal that truly sets your soul on fire.
So no more, I kind of want to travel more and more. I'm going to explore the Amazon rainforest next year.
Exactly. Collier uses the analogy of a general with a well-defined battle plan. Vague orders lead to a confused army, just like vague goals lead to a scattered mind.
Makes sense. And the third step, what's the final piece of the puzzle?
Focus your thought on it with unwavering purpose. This is where the action happens. It's about putting in the work, visualizing your goal, and maintaining that persistent belief, even when doubts creep in.
This is where it gets real, right? It's not enough to just think about what you want. You have to actually believe you can achieve it, even when it feels impossible.
Absolutely. And Collier argues that faith, that unwavering conviction in your inner power and the support of the universal mind, is what drives success. It's the current that activates the power of the mind and helps you overcome any obstacle.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. But what about those times when doubt creeps in? We're all human, right? How do we stay focused when we face challenges and setbacks?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore how to cultivate that unwavering faith, overcome obstacles, and truly step into our power. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So we've established that we might have this untapped mental power, but how do we actually use it to create the life we want? It all feels a bit abstract, to be honest.
I get that. One of the most practical concepts Collier introduces is the idea of unappropriated millions. He's not just talking about money here. He's talking about the wealth of ideas, opportunities, and resources that surround us, just waiting to be discovered and put to use.
So it's like we're surrounded by this invisible gold mine, but most of us are walking around completely oblivious to the riches beneath our feet.
Exactly. And our thoughts are the tools that allow us to see and tap into this abundance. Think of it like a field full of valuable resources: coal, silver, gold. They're only valuable once they're discovered and utilized. Our minds are the same way, full of potential that remains dormant until we actively engage with it.
Okay, so instead of waiting for some external force to shower us with good fortune, we need to shift our mindset and realize that the power to create abundance lies within us.
That's the key. And Collier argues that this creative power is available to everyone, regardless of their background, education, or social standing. He really emphasizes the importance of mindset, especially in a world that's constantly changing. He contrasts the mindset of the past with the mindset needed for success in his time, a time that sounds a lot like the world we live in today, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's like everything is moving at warp speed. What did he see as the difference in mindset?
Well, he points out that in the past, people were more likely to accept their lot in life, follow in their parents' footsteps, and rarely question the status quo. But in a world where change is constant and opportunities abound, a different approach is needed.
So it's not enough to just go with the flow anymore. We have to be more proactive, more willing to embrace change and adapt to new circumstances.
Exactly. Collier uses the word dynamic to describe this new era where progress is driven by those who dare to think differently and actively shape their destinies. And he believes thought is at the heart of this transformation.
So we're no longer bound by the limitations of the past, but we need to upgrade our thinking to keep up with the ever-changing world around us. It feels like a lot of pressure to constantly be innovating and pushing boundaries.
I hear you, but Collier's message is actually very empowering. He's saying we have the power to evolve with the world, to tap into our creativity, and use our minds to navigate the complexities and opportunities that arise.
Okay, so we're at this incredible buffet of possibilities, but a lot of us are hesitant to even pick up a plate. How do we overcome that hesitation and embrace this mindset of abundance that Collier talks about?
He acknowledges that many of us fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, focusing on our perceived shortcomings, and letting doubts and fears hold us back.
It's so easy to get caught up in that cycle of self-doubt, especially with social media constantly showing us these seemingly perfect lives. How do we break free from that?
Collier stresses the importance of self-belief, of recognizing our unique talents and abilities. It's not about being arrogant or ignoring areas where we can improve. It's about acknowledging our inherent worth and believing in our capacity to make a positive impact.
So it's not just about having skills and talents, it's about believing we can actually use them to achieve our goals and contribute to the world around us.
Exactly. He uses the analogy of a piece of steel. When magnetized with faith and belief, it can lift objects many times its own weight. But when demagnetized by doubt and fear, it becomes powerless. Our minds are the same way.
Okay, that's a powerful image. But let's be real, everyone experiences self-doubt sometimes. How do we deal with those moments when we feel like we're not good enough or that our goals are out of reach?
Collier reminds us that every successful person, every innovator, every leader throughout history faced their own share of doubts and challenges. The difference is they chose to focus on their vision and persevere in the face of adversity. They didn't let those doubts define them.
So it's not about being fearless, but about having the courage to act, despite our fears, to keep moving forward, even when we're not sure what the outcome will be.
Exactly. He stresses that this courage is not something we're born with. It's something we cultivate through practice. By repeatedly stepping outside our comfort zones and challenging our limiting beliefs, we build resilience and confidence.
So it's about embracing the journey, knowing that the path to success is rarely a straight line. There will be bumps in the road, but those bumps can actually make us stronger and more capable.
That's a great way to put it. Collier encourages us to see every obstacle, every setback, as an opportunity for growth and learning. It's about embracing the entire experience, knowing that it's all part of a larger journey that's ultimately leading us towards our highest good.
And we don't have to take this journey alone, right? We were talking earlier about this universal mind, this source of wisdom and guidance that's always available to us.
Absolutely. Collier reminds us that we're connected to this infinite source of support, and we can tap into it through prayer meditation, or simply by quieting our minds and listening to our intuition. It's not about begging for favors or special treatment, but rather about aligning ourselves with this higher intelligence and trusting that we're being guided in the right direction.
So it's about finding that balance between taking action and surrendering to something greater than ourselves. I'm starting to see how Collier's message can be both empowering and comforting. It's not denying the challenges, but acknowledging that we have the inner resources to navigate them, and we're never truly alone in our struggles.
That's a great insight. Collier challenges us to shift our perspective and see every experience, positive or negative, as an opportunity for growth. It's about cultivating gratitude for the challenges as well as the triumphs, knowing that they're all contributing to our evolution.
It's like reframing those failures as valuable lessons that are shaping us into the people we're meant to be.
Exactly. Collier reminds us that every obstacle, overcome every lesson learned, adds to our strength and resilience, preparing us for even greater challenges and triumphs ahead. That's where the true power lies, in embracing the journey, trusting the process, and knowing that we have the inner strength to create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
This has been such a fascinating exploration of the power of the mind. But we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm eager to hear more about how Collier suggests we apply these principles in everyday life. There's still so much to unpack.
There is. We'll dive back into the secret of the ages and explore even more of Collier's insights in the final part of our Dean Dive. Join us then.
Welcome back. We've been exploring Robert Collier's The Secret of the Ages and this idea that our minds are incredibly powerful tools for shaping our reality. But how do we move beyond the theory and actually apply these principles in practical ways?
That's a great question. And Collier offers some really insightful guidance in that area. He emphasizes the importance of understanding the truth behind everything. Not truth in a subjective sense, but rather the underlying principles that govern success, happiness, and well-being.
So it's not about blindly following rules or traditions, but about seeking a deeper understanding of the laws that operate in the universe, including the laws of the mind.
Exactly. Collier uses a simple analogy. Just as there's one right way to solve a math problem, there's one best way to approach every situation in life. And that best way comes from understanding the underlying truth of that situation.
So it's like finding that perfect formula, that key that unlocks the door to the best possible outcome. But how do we even begin to grasp this truth? It all feels a bit mysterious and elusive.
It's not as complicated as it might seem. Collier explains that this truth isn't some abstract concept, but rather a practical understanding of how things work. Think of the law of gravity. It's a universal principle that governs how objects behave. In a similar way, there are principles that govern the mind and how our thoughts create our reality.
So it's about observing patterns, understanding cause and effect, and using that knowledge to make more informed choices.
Precisely. Collier provides some really interesting examples of how this applies to various areas of life, like our health, finances, and relationships. For instance, when it comes to health, he challenges the traditional view that sickness is something that just happens to us, something we have no control over.
I've definitely fallen into that trap of feeling like a victim of circumstance when it comes to my health. But what does Collier suggest as an alternative?
He reminds us that our bodies are constantly changing, rebuilding themselves cell by cell, and the quality of that rebuilding process is directly influenced by our thoughts and beliefs.
So if we're constantly focusing on what's wrong with our bodies, we're actually contributing to the problem. Is that what he's saying?
It's not about denying reality or pretending we're never sick. It's about shifting our focus from dwelling on sickness and limitations to visualizing health and vitality, believing that our bodies are inherently capable of healing.
So it's about tapping into that self-healing power we all possess and using our minds to support that process.
Exactly. He suggests repeating affirmations of health and well-being to ourselves, impressing those beliefs upon our subconscious minds. He even encourages visualizing specific organs functioning perfectly, reinforcing the belief that our bodies are whole and complete.
So it's not just about hoping to feel better. It's about taking an active role in our own healing process by aligning our thoughts and beliefs with the outcome we desire. It sounds a lot like the power of positive thinking, but with a more practical and action-oriented approach.
I think that's a great way to describe it. And Collier emphasizes that this same principle applies to other areas of life, like our finances. He challenges the belief that wealth is solely determined by external factors like luck or circumstance.
This is where a lot of people struggle, right? Feeling like they're stuck in a financial rut and there's nothing they can do to change it. What's Collier's perspective on that?
He reminds us that all wealth originates in the mind, in ideas, and innovation. Money is simply a tool, a means of exchanging those ideas. He encourages us to shift our focus from chasing money to developing our minds, cultivating our talents, and seeking inspiration from that universal mind we were discussing earlier.
So it's not about obsessing over every dollar, but about investing in ourselves and trusting that abundance will follow when we align ourselves with the right ideas and opportunities. It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance, right?
Exactly. And just as we can visualize healing in our bodies, we can visualize abundance flowing into our lives. It's about seeing ourselves as prosperous, feeling those emotions of gratitude and abundance, and believing that we're worthy of receiving all the good things life has to offer.
This is really resonating with me. But what about those inevitable setbacks and challenges we all face? How do we stay focused on our goals when we hit those bumps in the road?
Collier acknowledges those challenges are part of the journey. He compares them to the weights a weightlifter uses to build muscle. Each obstacle we overcome, each setback we navigate, makes us stronger and more resilient.
So it's not about avoiding challenges, but about reframing them as opportunities for growth. Instead of letting those setbacks derail us, we can use them as fuel to propel us forward.
Exactly. He encourages us to see those challenges not as failures, but as stepping stones on the path to success. He reminds us that even the most successful people faced countless setbacks. What set them apart was their resilience, their ability to bounce back from adversity and keep moving towards their vision.
So it's not about being superhuman or never experiencing doubt or fear. It's about having the courage to persevere, to keep getting up and trying again even when it feels difficult.
That's the essence of Collier's message. And he reminds us we don't have to go through these challenges alone. We have that connection to the universal mind, that source of wisdom and support that's always available to us.
It's like having an invisible mentor, always cheering us on and guiding us in the right direction, even when we can't see the path ahead clearly. That's a very comforting thought.
It is. And Collier emphasizes the importance of cultivating gratitude even in the midst of challenges. When we focus on the good things in our lives, no matter how small, We shift our energy and attract even more abundance into our experience.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into the power of the mind. Collier's message is so empowering and inspiring. It's about realizing we're not victims of circumstance, but creators of our own destinies.
He's given us so much to think about, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to explore these concepts further and experiment with applying them in their own lives.
Remember, the power to achieve our desires lies within our own minds. What will you choose to create with yours? That's something to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Did you get any of that?